It had only been 3 months since you married Jungkook, and while the initial awkwardness was still present, things had started to settle down between the two of you. Jungkook had a reputation for being cold, his sharp gaze enough to send shivers down anyone's spine, but to you he was never cold. Distant at times, yes, but never cruel, never dismissive. You stretched your arms above your head, yawning as you sat on the couch, your laptop resting on your lap. The clock on the wall showed it was well past midnight, but your work had kept you occupied. Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed in the quiet apartment. Jungkook walked into the living room, his black t-shirt slightly loose, his sweatpants hanging low on his hips. His hair was tousled, a sure sign that he had just woken up. You glanced up at him, expecting a cold remark about you being up so late. But instead, he walked past you towards the kitchen. A moment later, he returned with 2 cups of coffee, setting one beside you without a word before sitting on the opposite side of the couch. You should sleep, he muttered, taking a sip of his coffee. A small smile played on your lips as you wrapped your fingers around the warm mug. I will, just had some work to finish. He nodded, his gaze fixed on the screen of your laptop for a few seconds before shifting his attention back to his coffee. The warmth of his small, silent gesture filled your heart with a strange kind of happiness. He might not say much, but his actions always spoke louder. You glanced at him, feeling the urge to prolong the conversation. Did I wake you up? You asked softly. Jungkook shook his head, eyes still trained on his cup. No, I just noticed the light was still on, thought you might need a break. Your fingers tapped against the ceramic of your mug as you took a sip. You didn't have to, but thank you. He hummed in response, leaning back against the couch. For a moment, the silence between you was comfortable. The distance that once felt so vast was beginning to close, little by little. You work too much, he added after a pause. It's not good to overdo it. You raised an eyebrow, says the man who spends hours at work and barely sleeps. His lips twitched, almost like he wanted to smile but stopped himself. That's different. How so? I'm used to it. He met your eyes briefly before looking away. You, on the other hand, are still adjusting. His words made your heart flutter unexpectedly. You hadn't expected him to notice such things, let alone care enough to point them out. I'm trying, you admitted, stirring your coffee absent-mindedly. Things are getting easier. Jungkook exhaled quietly, setting the cup down. Good. A comfortable silence settled between you again, but this time it felt different, warmer. The coldness you once feared was slowly melting away, revealing a side of him you were beginning to appreciate. Just as you were about to turn back to your laptop, Jungkook's voice broke through the quiet. Do you need help? You blinked in surprise. With work? He shrugged, avoiding your gaze. If there's something I can do. A soft chuckle escaped your lips. I doubt you would be interested in finance reports. He made a face. Probably not, but still. Something about his hesitant offer made your chest feel lighter. It wasn't much, but it was enough to tell you that this marriage, though once forced upon you, was slowly becoming something real. Just keep me company then, you said, smiling softly. Jungkook exhaled through his nose, shaking his head slightly as he leaned back onto the couch, coffee in hand. I think I can do that. The next day you were free from work since it was a weekend, so you decided to cook dinner. You were standing by the kitchen counter chopping vegetables for dinner. Your playlist hummed in the background, filling the space with a comforting melody. You swayed slightly to the rhythm, lost in the task at hand until you felt a presence behind you. It was him, your husband. He reached over your shoulder, grabbing a glass from the cabinet above you. His arm brushed against yours, the warmth of his body radiating through the thin fabric of your dress. You held your breath for a second, the proximity making your heart race. "You're cutting them too big," he said, his voice low as he set the glass down. You turn your head slightly to glance at him. "Oh, you have a problem with my shopping skills now?" He smirked, his fingers casually picking up a piece of carrot. "Just saying, I could do it better." You scoffed. "Then be my guest." Without another word, he took the knife from your hand, his fingers briefly brushing against yours. He stepped closer, his body practically caging you against the counter. You swallowed hard, watching as he skillfully diced the vegetables with ease. You didn't know what was more distracting, the way his hands moved with precision or the way his scent lingered so close. A few months ago, Jungkook had been a stranger, your cold, distant husband, but now, standing so close, feeling the heat of his body, you realized how much had changed. After the dinner, you came in the living room since it started raining outside. The sound of rain tapping against the window filled the quiet apartment. You sat on the couch, hugging your knees to your chest as you watched the raindrops race down the glass. Jungkook entered the living room, his eyes flickering to you before he sighed. Without a word, he disappeared into the bedroom and returned with a thick blanket. He tossed it over you, his hand brushing against your shoulder as he did. "Getting sick won't help anyone," he muttered, plopping down beside you. Your heart warmed at his gesture, and before you could think twice, you lifted the edge of the blanket and draped it over him as well. He stiffened slightly at first but didn't move away. For a while, neither of you spoke, simply listening to the rain. Then, without looking at you, he reached out, his fingers gently curling around yours beneath the blanket. Your breath hissed, but you didn't pull away. Neither of you said anything, you didn't need to. In that moment, the silence spoke volumes, and that's how you were falling for him more every day. He didn't know how to express much through words, but his actions were enough to tell you he cares. You were finishing up some last minute work when the doorbell rang. Stretching your tired limbs, you made your way to the door, wondering who would be visiting at this hour. As you opened it, a bright, bubbly voice greeted you before you could even process who it was. "Oh my god, you must be her, Jungkook's wife. Wow, I can't believe I'm finally meeting you. I'm Sojin, Jungkook's best friend since forever." She beamed, stepping inside before you could even invite her in. She smiled politely, stepping aside as she made herself comfortable. She was stunning, radiating an effortless charm that made you understand why Jungkook held her dear. "It's nice to meet you, Sujin," you said, closing the door behind her. "Jungkook isn't home yet. He should be back soon." "Oh, that's fine. I just wanted to surprise him. He's going to freak out when he sees me." She laughed before plopping down on the couch. You sat down as well, trying to shake off the small, unexpected twinge of jealousy bubbling inside you. Sujin wasn't doing anything wrong, she was just excited, but hearing her talk endlessly about her and Jungkook's childhood, their memories, and all the inside jokes they shared made you feel like an outsider. "He doesn't even call me nowadays, especially since he got married. Otherwise, he couldn't live without calling me at least once a day." You just smiled. "He is mostly busy throughout the day." "Yes, but he wasn't like this always. I swear he used to be so obsessed with those silly action figures when we were kids. He wouldn't even let me touch them. Can you believe that? I had to steal one just to annoy him." She giggled. You smiled, forcing out a chuckle. "Sounds like him," you said softly, sipping your water. "Right, and oh, don't even get me started on our high school days. We used to..." The sound of the front door opening interrupted her, and her eyes lit up instantly. "He's here," she whispered excitedly, bouncing on the couch. Jungkook walked in, his face neutral at first, but the moment his eyes landed on her, they widened in surprise. "No way." He breathed before breaking into a rare, genuine smile. Sujin? I told you I would visit, didn't I? She ran up to him, wrapping her arms around him in a tight hug. Jungkook chuckled, patting her back. It's been so long. I was started to think you forgot about me after getting married. She pouted, pulling away. Jungkook shook his head with a small smirk. You are still dramatic, I see, but no, I didn't forget you. I just... His eyes flickered to you for a brief second before he continued. Got busy. Sujin rolled her eyes. Busy, more like wrapped around your wife's finger now, huh? She teased. You let out a nervous laugh looking away. Jungkook only smirked. Something like that. Feeling a bit out of place, you stood up. I should make something for you, Sujin. You must be tired from traveling. Oh, no need. Jungkook cut in immediately. I'll order something. It's late. You don't need to trouble yourself. You blinked at him in surprise but nodded. All right, if you say so. Sujin looked at him a bit teasingly. Oh ho, so that's how much you take care of your wife, huh? You felt your cheeks heating slightly. Jungkook just smiled, barely noticeable. Then she turned her attention to you, tilting her head curiously. Oh, by the way, what do you do? Are you working? Before you could even open your mouth, Jungkook answered almost instantly, his voice carrying a hint of pride. Yes, she's a chartered accountant at Goldman Sachs. One of the best, actually. You blinked in surprise looking at him. The way he said it, without hesitation, with that small, proud smile, made something in your heart melt. You weren't used to hearing your achievements being spoken about like that. Sujin's eyes widened. Whoa, that's amazing. And here I thought you were just another lucky wife of a rich husband. She teased. Turns out you are the badass one in this marriage. You chuckled, shaking your head. I just worked hard, that's all. Don't be modest. Jungkook cut in smoothly, taking a seat on the couch. She's incredible at what she does. You glanced at him again, feeling warmth bloom in your chest at his words. Well, I'm impressed, and here I was thinking my best friend was the most accomplished person I knew. Turns out his wife might just take that title. Jungkook smiled. I told you I have good taste. Sujin groaned. Okay, no need to rub it in. I think I should cook something. You have come for the first time and before you could finish, Jungkook interrupted. Relax, Sujin is a friend. I'm ordering. You turned to him, about to protest, but the way he looked at you, firm but gentle, made you pause. He didn't want you to overwork yourself. I agree with him. Actually, you have probably had a long day at work. Let's just get takeout and chill. Jungkook nodded, already pulling out his phone. I'll order from your favorite place, Sujin. Yes, that's why you're still my best friend. She grinned. Dinner arrived shortly after, and the three of you moved to the dining table. Sujin wasted no time diving into childhood stories, barely stopping to take a breath. Jungkook used to be such a crybaby when we were little. She loved stuffing a piece of food into her mouth. Jungkook groaned. No, I wasn't. Yes, you were. You cried when you lost at games, when you scraped your knee, when your mom wouldn't buy you that expensive action figure. Okay, enough. Jungkook muttered, shooting you a glance as if to say, don't believe her. But you were smiling, enjoying the rare glimpse into his past. Also, Sojin continued, turning to you. He used to be such a show off in school, always had to be the best at everything. And don't get me started on how girls used to throw themselves at him. Sojin, Jungkook warned, shaking his head. What? She smiled. I'm just giving her the full Jungkook experience. You chuckled, but there was a small pang in your chest. You knew she was just excited, reminiscing about her best friend. But now that you were falling for Jungkook, perhaps even in love with him, hearing about how effortlessly close they were made you feel a little out of place. Jungkook, however, seemed to notice the slight change in your expression. His eyes lingered on you for a moment before he reached for your hand under the table, giving it a light squeeze. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable, but enough to ground you. Dinner went on with Sujin talking non-stop even after moving to the living room. She continued laughing and reminiscing about everything under the sun. It was getting late and you were exhausted from work. Your eyelids felt heavier with every passing minute. Jungkook sitting beside you noticed. "You're dozing off," he murmured, nudging your arm gently. "Hmm." You blinked, trying to shake off the sleepiness. You excused yourself to your room, exhaustion finally catching up. Jungkook followed you in a few minutes later, noticing the way you were barely keeping your eyes open. He walked over, brushing your hair back lightly. "Go to sleep," he murmured. Are you going to stay up?" You mumbled sleepily, already halfway there. He sighed. "You see, Sujin is a chatterbox. Let's see how much I can endure until she also go to sleep." A soft chuckle left her mouth. "She's cute though." Before he could say more, Sujin peeked into the room. "Hey, I was thinking, can she sleep in the guest room tonight? I really want to talk more and I don't want to disturb you guys." Jungkook's expression shifted. He glanced at you, then at Sujin, his jaw tightening slightly. "No," he said simply. Sujin blinked. "What? Why not? We have so much to..." "It's late. You should rest too. We can talk tomorrow," he stated firmly, leaving no room for argument. Sujin pouted. Ugh, you're such a killjoy now. What happened to the fun Jungkook I knew?" "He got married," he replied without hesitation, glancing at you. Something about the way he said it made your heart skip a beat. Sujin groaned but relented. "Fine, fine. Good night, lovebirds." Once she left, Jungkook turned back to you. "Sleep properly, okay?" You smiled drowsily. "You didn't have to do that. I wouldn't have minded sleeping in the guest room." His gaze softened as he lay beside you. Butterflies went wild in your stomach. "I would have." Your heart swelled at his words, but before you could say anything, he leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to your forehead. "Good night," he murmured, but your sleep was gone. How could you possibly sleep now? For the first time since your marriage, he was lying this close, so close that there was no gap between you. His warmth seeped into your skin, his scent, a mix of his calling and something uniquely him, wrapped around you, making it impossible to focus on anything else. Your heart pounded as you stared at the ceiling, willing yourself to stay calm, but how could you when every shift of his body, every small breath he took reminded you of just how near he was? You could feel the slow rise and fall of his chest, the heat radiating off him, the faint sound of his breathing. It was maddening. Jungkook shifted slightly and you felt the brush of his arm against yours. A sharp inhale escaped you and you instantly regretted it. "You okay? Why aren't you sleeping?" His voice was husky, thick with sleep, yet laced with curiosity. You cursed internally. "Yeah," you whispered. His gaze flickered to you in the dim light, and you could feel him watching you, studying your face. The silence between you was heavy, charged. "You're not used to this, huh?" he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. You hesitated before nodding slightly. "Not really." A small, knowing smirk tugged at his lips. "I can tell." He teased, his voice low and smooth. "You are as stiff as a board." You turned your head to glare at him, but the effect was lost when your face was inches from his. Your breath hitched, his eyes dark and unreadable flickered down to your lips for the briefest second before meeting your gaze again. You felt heat crawl up your neck. "It's just, you've never been this close," he finished for you. You swallowed hard, nodding. Jungkook hummed in thought, his gaze softer now, more affectionate. "Do you want me to move?" You should have said yes. You should have nodded, turned over, and gone to sleep like a normal person, but instead your lips parted and nothing came out. Jungkook watched you for a moment before chuckling under his breath. I'll take that as a no, he murmured. Your face burned. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. His voice was laced with amusement, but there was something else there, something deeper. You turned away, flustered beyond belief, but Jungkook only reached out, his fingers brushing against yours under the blanket. It was subtle, hesitant, almost as if he was waiting for you to pull away. You didn't. Instead, your fingers curled slightly, and that was all the permission he needed. His hand found yours fully, warm and steady. Sleep, he whispered, giving your hand a small squeeze. Easier said than done. But as his thumb absent-mindedly traced circles on the back of your hand, as his steady breathing evened out beside you, you found yourself slowly drifting off. And for the first time since your marriage, sleeping beside him, Jungkook didn't feel strange. It felt safe. It felt right.